It's time for Real Talk with Brian and Dan, the weekly talk radio show dedicated to discussing important real estate topics, plus insight into the local community. With a combined experience of over 50 years as local real estate brokers from the East Side Real Estate team at Keller Williams Realty Bellevue. Here's your hosts, Brian Levitt and Dan Edwards.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk. This is Dan Edwards.
And Brian Levitt.
And we're your hosts today. We've got a fantastic show. We're looking forward to some great conversations about real estate, about living, about homes, about just about anything. We've got some awesome events coming up at the end we'll talk about, and some new listings that are going to be hitting the market. So as we get started, as every show, our first segment is kind of getting a little deeper in the weeds a little bit, getting right to the real estate talk. So Brian, last week we talked about contingencies of the sale of a home. This week we're going to talk about an inspection contingency. So for the audience, share with us, what is exactly an inspection contingency?
Inspection contingency is part of the agreement that a purchase would be conditioned on the buyer's approval of an inspection. And we've got a special guest with us today, Wade Pennington, who's been my inspector of choice for probably, the last 20 years? Wade, how long have we been working together?
Yeah, it's been about 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a nice segment with Wade coming up. But the real reason that I am such a strong advocate for inspections is it protects both the buyer and the seller. I think people typically think it's a buyer thing, and it is. But the seller also has an obligation to disclose known defects or defects they should reasonably have known about. So an inspection, in fact, protects both parties. So, what's your take on inspection?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's really super important that as how many of us bought cars, right? Did we test drive the car before it was done? And I have a great mechanic here in town who will actually inspect the car. So a home inspection is just that foundation to gable. And really, as you look at it contractually, there's a little process, right? So it actually, it does start with getting a full inspection, which we'll talk about later. But then there's a whole nother rounds of negotiations there. So from a buyer's standpoint, it's actually in Washington State, right? Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Washington State, it's basically a free peek, right?
Right, exactly right.
So you get a free peek. You can hire a professional inspector, and it can also go into a possibility of an additional inspection time period. On our contracts there, that means we're looking at adding additional inspection days if there's something that the inspector comes up with that needs additional eyeballs, because the inspections are visual inspections mostly.
Correct, non-invasive. They're not opening up walls, although I'll tell you the technology today is pretty amazing. When we get into the conversation with Wade, I'd like him to share some of that technology that can actually see inside of some of the walls to look for latent defects.
Now, I have us here live on Facebook right now for this segment. So if anybody out there watching us live can hear this, and because we're trying new technology, and has a question related to either a buyer or a seller on a home inspection, go ahead and send it to us. But tell us one of the more complicated inspection situations that you solved for one of your clients.
Oh, gosh. I think the one that surprised me the most was new construction. People assume that during a new construction period, the municipality is doing the inspections for construction, and I've had some egregious problems found doing inspections of new construction. I think the biggest one was a Street of Dreams home that they had put in floor joists that were way overextended, just didn't have the support for the span.
They weren't to code, right?
They were not even close. And I think the homeowner the buyer made the assumption that everything would be built to code, but I counseled them to bring in an inspector anyway. And that was a $30,000 repair for that builder.
Yeah, and it cost your client somewhere around $500 to hire an inspector to come out, depending on the size of the home.
Right.
But I've seen that, especially now when they're building as quick as they're building right now.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I cannot stress an inspection for new construction high enough. And the interesting thing is, all the builders want that.
Some do. Sometimes I get a builder who I think their ego is in the way.
Uh-huh.
So then we bring in Uncle Wade to do the walkthrough. And, I've always managed to get the inspector in. And the thing we assure the builder is we're not trying to throw them under the bus. We just want to make sure that it is done properly.
Right.
And typically they're going to back up their work, but we want that second look. I almost explain it to buyers. I almost think of it as an insurance policy, so to speak, to know what you're buying. Just have that look from the professional perspective to know exactly what they're buying.
Definitely. So let's talk about the inspection timeline, right? So typically an offer will be subject to inspection 7 days, right?
Typically 7 to 10. The boilerplate on the agreement is 10. In this heated market, sometimes we shorten that up to 3 to 5 days. Those are business days, so weekends and holidays don't count.
Right. So you can actually do an inspection for 4 days, and it actually ends up being 6.
Easily, yeah, depending on the day. And, of course, that's partially subject to availability of the inspector. And something I like about Wade is he's got several people that are extremely proficient that work for him, so we're usually able to schedule when we need them.
Awesome. So let's also talk about what happens when a seller receives that inspection response.
Sure.
What's their next play?
The way the agreement's written is sellers typically have no obligation to make a repair, but it's normally in the seller's best interest. The way I explain it is if we're working with a reasonable buyer, they find a defect. If the seller doesn't fix it for them, they're going to probably have to fix it for the next buyer.
Right.
So you might as well work with it. And partially, in terms of the bargaining, if a seller's getting full market value, it's expected that the home is up to snuff. And if they're selling it as an as is or a bargain, that's different. That's negotiable. I mean, it's always negotiable. But the point is sometimes I have sellers who say, "Hey, I'm not going to spend the money." Well, then you're going to have to deal with this with the next buyer if this buyer.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate there.
Sure.
It's a hot market for sellers.
Right.
So who cares? Next guy will just have to deal with it, right?
If you find someone that will deal with it, it all equates into value.
Value.
Right. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is pre-inspections. I just had one where we found a couple of significant items, and right up front we disclosed these to the buyer. And the reason we chose the offer we did is that buyer agreed to accept it and do the repairs themselves, which played into the cost that the seller would have spent to do the repairs. So it upped the net gain for that seller.
All right. So for the benefit of the listeners out there, the way Washington State Northwest Multiple Forms work for an inspection is there's a 7-day inspection or 3 or 5 or 10, whatever it is, negotiable. Then the seller gets the opportunity, if the buyer sends a response over that is, okay, I want these repairs done, or it's passed. So it's one of those two things. Now, the seller gets an opportunity to go back. It doesn't mean they can just outright terminate that contract on the buyer.
Correct.
They can do one of 3 things. They can say, no, we're not doing anything.
Right.
Yes, we're going to do some of these things. Or third would be another solution altogether.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe.
Maybe.
They can just say, fine, I'll do everything you're requesting. Boom, your inspection contingency is waived. They can say no, in which case the buyer could walk if they want, or they can agree to which corrections and repairs they're willing to make.
Okay, is that the end of it? So when a seller comes back and says, here's what we're doing, is that the end of it?
Well, it's up to the buyer. If they put the ball back in the buyer's court, the buyer can decide if they want to accept that or if they want to make a counterproposal. I think the thing to remember is the inspection timelines do not repeat. I think sometimes a common mistake I see brokers make is they think that you can just negotiate till you reach a solution. Once that time frame's up, it's over. Either the buyer terminates or the inspection is waived. So that's something that Dan and I are very carefully watching for our clients to make sure there's no missed timelines.
Yeah, so just to kind of be clear, is you go buyer's response, seller's response, buyer's response. You can go buyer, seller, but it all has to remain in that total timeline as written on the contract.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Exactly
Cool.
Right.
Well, I hope we didn't get too far in the weeds on this, but and I hope that was really good information. Now, I want to definitely say out there that the inspection contingency thing, it's a negotiation tool, but there is some liability to it, and you need to make sure that you're the most comfortable you can be with the strategy that you chose. In conclusion, Brian mentioned last week it's all about, what was the word? It just escaped me.
Negotiation? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, no, I was saying it's all about risk. Like, what's your level of risk going into the negotiations? If you waive inspection, it's high risk. If you go through the process, it could take longer and actually run you into things. So I think we have a few more seconds. Any last words, Brian?
No, I think you're right on the risk. It's a risk tolerance issue, and an inspection mitigates that risk and lowers it. It's more information for the parties to process their transaction.
All right. Well, that's a great discussion. Thank you for your time on that. Coming up next, after the segment, we've got our mortgage moment with Wes Graham, so please stay tuned. We'll see you soon.
Not sure if now is the right time to sell? Worried you missed the market? The Eastside Real Estate Team specializes in helping homeowners maximize their equity when selling. With our proven premier listing service, our clients have sold their homes for more money in less time than the competition. We know you have many choices when working with a real estate agent, but with the Eastside Real Estate Team, you get a team of highly qualified, experienced agents. From staging to deciding if your property is market ready for top dollar. If you're considering selling, call the Eastside Real Estate Team at 425-200-4093 or check out our website at the eastsiderealestateteam.com, a subsidiary of Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue.
Do you have family home movies you can no longer enjoy because, well, you either tossed your VCR or your camcorder is broken? Lotus Media is here to help you relive the wedding memories, birthdays, trips, and holiday celebrations. We are a local business that specializes in future-proofing everything from VHS and Hi-8 videotapes to photos and slides and even 8mm film. Our process creates universal digital files from your precious memories, ensuring they can be enjoyed for generations to come. The videos can be viewed anywhere on your PC, web browser, or even your phone, and they are a snap to edit too. We have over 20,000 happy customers, including Starbucks. Our digitization prices are lower than Costco's, and most orders are processed in just 10 days. We digitize all tape formats from all regions and can help repair your tape if it is broken or extract it from a camcorder if it is stuck. Visit us online to find out more at lotusmedia.us. Email us for more information at support@lotusmedia.us or give us a call at 855-LTS-MEDIA. That's 855-587-6334. One last time, 855-587-6334.
Get inspired every hour right here on Alternative Talk 1150.
Hey, you're back with Real Talk with Brian Levitt, Dan Edwards of the Eastside Real Estate Team, Keller Williams, Bellevue. And we've got Wes Graham of Washington First Mortgage with us for our mortgage moment. Hey, Wes, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, guys. Nice to hear from both of you. I've been in this industry 20 years, going on 20 years. I just recently moved my business from Caliber Home Loans over to Washington First Mortgage. And a little bit about myself as far as what do I do personally. I'm a big golfer, Brian. Obviously, love to play cards, love to get into the poker room. But more importantly, I'm a family guy with 2 kids, and I do coach baseball. And that's kind of my biggest passion right now is just watching my daughter grow up and doing baseball.
Nice.
It's been a lot of fun the last couple of weeks.
Hey, Wes, Dan Edwards here. I hope you're doing good. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
So one of the things that a lot of people in our mortgage moment we're trying to do is kind of what's happening this week because stuff changes. Our show's weekly. Rates were down, dropped to a historic low. So what do consumers, what do buyers need to know about what's going on right now?
So I would say this, as far as the interest rate market, a couple things happen when interest rates, go lower. And, the rates have gone basically from 4.81, let's call it 60 days ago, on an average for a 30-year fix, down to just a hair over 4%. And so what that does, it does a couple things. It breeds a little bit of confidence in going out and tackling this purchase market just because of affordability. Mm-hmm. And what that does is on like an average loan amount at $500,000 in our local area, you've gone from basically a payment that was $245 higher 60 days ago, and now it's $245 lower. Wow. And so that's for, like, say, someone that was, pre-approved at a $500,000 mark. Now they very well might qualify for up to $560,000. And so the affordability, side of the fence is really helping people come off the fence and, locking in that lower interest rate mortgage that really helps mentally, jump over that hurdle of, having a lower payment.
Wow, that's awesome. Very affordable.
Yeah. So I'm curious, in today's market, if someone comes to you for a pre-approval, how long is that taking you these days?
So let's talk about the two things. There's pre-qualification, right, which is basically me looking at your credit, looking at your income documentation, and running you through my electronic underwriting system that will spit out an approval really within a day. So that can be, if you talk to a loan officer in the morning, they should be able to turn your pre-qualification over that same day. What pre-approval really is, and that's my advice to anyone out there that is going down the road of pre-qualification, is to actually take the next step, which is having an underwriter actually look at your documentation and really issuing a commitment to lend. And so once you have that document in your hand, it's a little bit, it's powerful to see that an underwriter's looked at your documentation and a bank's basically given you their commitment that they're going to do financing for the property that you find. That also does make it easier on a listing agent taking your offer. Once they see that you're fully pre-approved and an underwriter's seen your finances, that seller is just that much more comfortable with moving forward with your offer due to the fact that you've already been through the multiple layers of pre-approval.
Awesome. Well, we only have a real short segment here, so I'm going to wrap this up. I do want to hear something because our show is called Real Talk, and it's about homes. It's about that living in homes. Can you share something from your childhood, a memory of your home that you grew up in that is just seared into your brain? Hopefully a good one, right?
That's great. That's a good question. I would say, for me, I was lucky enough to grow up on a golf course, right?
Oh, there you go.
So nice. It's an easy seared image, right? Because there's nothing better than stepping out your back porch and being able to tee it up. That's, just being able to have the freedom to run around the golf course and play anytime I wanted to. And just coming in that back door and remembering that back door to my property is something that is seared into my brain for sure.
Awesome.
So, Wes, before we wrap up, tell our listeners how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, so I'm located in Kirkland, Washington. Me and Brian have worked together in the past. And they can reach me via my cell phone at 425-268-0116. Again, that's area code 425-268-0116. And I can also be reached via email at wesg@wfmtg.com. Again, that's wesg@wfmtg.com.
Wes,
right.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, so coming up after the break, we're going to go over to our expert, Wade Pennington, over 40 years in the real estate industry and doing real estate. So come on back. We'll be right back.
Did you know when you pay rent, you're actually paying someone else's mortgage? Are you tired of missing out on owning your own home? Fact: homeowners on average have 40 times the financial net worth of renters. The Eastside Real Estate Team has been helping many first-time home buyers find and buy their first home. They specialize in customer service and put you first. They listen first to what you're looking for, and then they take the time to make sure their clients understand every aspect of the home buying process. If owning a home has been your dream, the Eastside Real Estate Team can help you. For a free, no-hassle consultation, call 425-200-4093 or find them online at the eastsiderealestateteam.com, a subsidiary of Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue.
Feeling disorganized? Do you have trouble finding things in your home or feel overwhelmed when you open a drawer in the kitchen? Does your house add unnecessary stress to your already busy life? If the answer is yes to any of these questions, the professional organizers from Born to Organize would love to help. Born to Organize specializes in general home organizing, downsizing, home sale preparation, and move-in assistance. Unlike other organizing businesses, we also have a full-time licensed carpenter to assist with larger system installations and handyman projects. In as little as one visit, Born to Organize can help eliminate stress and anxiety in your life by utilizing an individualized approach with each client that includes decluttering and creation of simple systems within your home. Born to Organize serves Snohomish County, King County, and is available to travel throughout the United States on a per-project basis. Jamie Bourne and her team of organizers are simplification experts and love nothing more than making a house feel like a home. Please visit our website at BOURNE2ORGANIZE.com. You can also call us at 650-274-4308 or email Jamie at bourne2organize@gmail.com.
Tell your friends about Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Brian and Dan. I'm Dan.
I'm Brian. Hey, we have Wade Pennington with us today. 40 years in the real estate industry, first as an agent, and the last 26 years as my inspector of choice, the owner of Inspection Services Northwest. Wade also owns a real estate investment company. Please welcome to the show, Wade Pennington. Hey, before we get started, Wade, tell us about yourself. Hobbies, outside of work. What do you like to do?
Golf.
Golf. There you go.
Have 2 in a row on golf.
It's a theme.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah. I also like to build things, cabinets. Spend a lot of time in the garage building anything I can out of wood. So those are my 2 hobbies when I get a chance. Mostly golf, though.
Mostly golf. Where do you like to golf?
Well, I belong to Rainier.
Oh, nice.
So I do have a built-in club I go to quite frequently, but I do like to travel all over the place. We've got some great golf courses in the Pacific Northwest.
I golfed. My grandfather golfed. I couldn't pick it up. It takes so much time. My life with kids came along. I like being married to my wife, and so I just could not figure out the time to put that hobby into my life. But it's one that I think is really I would love to explore. I'd love to take the time because I love being outdoors, getting up early, crack of dawn, teeing off. I could do that. Not right now, but someday. That's my someday goal. So because this is a show about real estate, we always ask this question of our guests and visitors. Tell us of a memory that you can kind of go back to in your childhood in the home that you grew up in.
Well, it was very special. Of course, I think most people's first houses probably are, but in my case, it kind of got me where I am because my parents built the house right before I was born.
Wow.
And my uncle gave them the lot, and then the rest of my uncles and my dad and my mom built the house. And so it not only was a house, it was really, truly built for us, and it was extremely special to everybody in the family. And from that point on, thinking about it in the past now, it's that I never had the thought that I wouldn't own a home. Mm-hmm. It was just inherent at that point that because they had built themselves a home and had created that for us, that I would do the same. And I really got fascinated by construction. My favorite part of the house was the basement, and it was unfinished. And I liked it because I could see the structure, and didn't know what I was looking at the time probably, but, the plumbing and the wiring.
But it was your first inspection.
There you go. There you go. That's right.
So, Wade, tell us, why use an inspector?
Well, it's consumer protection, and, I think that we get a little bit hemmed in thinking that it's buyer protection when, in fact, it's not. It's everyone's protection. We think about the liability issues inherent in selling something that's really expensive, and there are a lot. And it also, sellers, we seem to think that we know a lot about our houses, but I can tell you from experience that we really don't. Unless we are an inspector, then we might. But other than that, most sellers, when we come back, let's say on a pre-list inspection, and we have a list of items, 99% of the time the seller is not aware that those items exist. And, the first time that happened years ago when we first started doing pre-lists, I was a little amazed. I thought, how can you live in that house and not know? Most people don't have the technical skills, of course, that an inspector or even a real estate agent would have to spot these items. And it is amazing what people can live in that don't have that knowledge, that just simply have a home that they live in, can walk by every day and not know that it could be a major problem or maybe a major safety hazard. So, the reason to get them is so that everyone in the transaction can be protected, whether that's the new family moving into their home and making sure that the family is protected, or the seller protecting themselves from any liability issues that they weren't aware of when they sold.
As I think of the arm's length transaction, the whole idea is let's all know what we need to know and then make an offer based on everything we know. And I'm not interested in going in my crawl space and not interested in going in my attic. And most people don't want to do that, don't do the dirty work, right? What differentiates, like, having your friend who's a contractor versus an inspector come over and look at the house? What's the difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, really, and a contractor, a contractor builds things. They know how to do it right and how to build it right. What they don't understand is defect recognition. Our job is what happens when something fails, or what are the indications that something may be failing, or the indication that something's at the end of its effective life. So it's completely the opposite, really, when you think about it. The contractor knows how to put it together. We know how to determine if it's falling apart. And that really is our job. Where is it on its life cycle? Is it likely to fail? Is it likely to cause a safety hazard? Those are really the components of an inspection. So when we look at a house, we are in our minds deconstructing it, whereas the contractor would be constructing it.
Oh.
And so the contractor can see those things on the surface. Oh, it looks like it's built right. The spans seem right. There's no cracks, these basic premises. But the inspector is looking at it completely differently, looking at it from the side of, does this make sense? Has it held up? How old is it? What was its life expectancy? What are the most common failures to that component? Like any other job, you take your car to a mechanic, you can certainly tell him it's making noise, but you have no idea why it's wrong. That's the same thing.
Sometimes I'll have an inspector talk about, it's not you, so I'm curious about your perspective, talk code. Like, this is not to code, or this, and tell me your perspective on that kind of comment.
So code construction isn't something that the inspector is looking for one reason. Well, I shouldn't say he's not looking for it, but he's not looking for it in most houses because the code changed over years.
Right.
So we may have a house that's 100 years old. Well, certainly it's going to have different standards that it was built to than a house that's built in the last few years. So when we look at new construction, we may in fact be looking at current code. We would word it more in safety. So in my team, we look at it more in the terms of safety, or there's another standard out there that everyone understands, and that's industry standard. So if we look at a component and say, maybe it didn't meet current code, but it was industry standard at the time it was built, then it's not a defect.
Right.
But if I look at a brand new house and then it's not built to current code, then it would be defective. So there's a lot of variation in how that works. So an inspector needs to be versed in code. But any inspector that goes back to an old home and expects it to meet code or is calling something else out to bring it to code, then they're gone beyond the scope, and it's not reasonable to expect an older home to meet current standards.
All right. So then, what are the risks to writing an offer without inspecting a home and waiving that inspection?
Well, when the market got really hot, this time was the first time in my career that I've seen an industry decide that the protections that were in place to protect the consumer should be waived because it was a hot market. That didn't make much sense to me at all. And what we got then was a rash of phone calls from people that had bought in their house and moved in, and then said, hey, I need to have this inspected because I moved in and I'm seeing A, B, C, and D. And sure enough, we go out there and get the typical list that we do. Out of 100 homes inspected, we may have 2 that have no repairs. So there are always repairs on homes, and they come from the minor issue up to the major issue. You do not know what you're getting.
Plus, I've seen, if one inspector inspects the house, another one comes along, right? These multiple offers will have pre-inspections. They're finding different things.
Yes. Yeah, it
Because
is true.
we all look at things a little differently.
Well, my industry, unfortunately or fortunately, is a lot of independent contractors.
Yeah.
And it does create a lot of variation in the industry. One of the things that I've done, because I have a team of inspectors, and I decided a long time ago, is that we had to have a very specific reason for doing what we're doing. There is really elimination of gray matter, and it goes back to what I've already talked about, which is industry standards.
Gray area or gray matter?
They need to have a lot of gray matter in the gray area.
So you mentioned the changing market where people are waiving inspections. So I've seen a lot more sellers moving towards seller pre-inspections. What's your take on seller having a pre-inspection?
I was promoting them long before the industry decided it was a good idea. And I'll tell you, I really do think they're an excellent idea. And they can be used in many different ways as a positive tool in a transaction. What makes most transactions not move to closing is not the defects found during an inspection. It's the emotional process that the purchaser goes through with those findings. So if we can get in a circumstance where we have preemptively taken care of a lot of the issues, or at least disclose them so that they're not a shock when they find out about them, you eliminate that emotional process that they go through. I've seen transactions fail for $50 worth of repairs simply because of the emotional process.
Right.
And as an inspector, I look there and shake my head and wonder why that would be. Well, it's an emotional impact, especially if you're going to move your family into that home. It becomes a big issue for you. Or you look at it as brand new, and then there's a defect. That has a huge emotional impact on people.
Yep.
So the other side of that, of course, is that you can eliminate all liability for a seller with a good inspection if it's handled properly. Because if you do disclose everything, and you don't need to fix it necessarily, disclose it.
Right.
You have full disclosure at this point. lay it on the table, make everyone aware of it. It eliminates the negotiation process and that tooth pulling, shall we say, that it goes through in the process of trying to get to closing, particularly for minor items.
Yeah, with our Premier Listing program, Brian and I pre-inspect every house that we put on the market. We advise our clients to pre-inspect their house before it goes on the market. Okay, so what is not covered in the inspection process?
Great question. Really anything that we can't see. So if we can't determine it by visual inspection or with some of the technology, which we'll talk about in a minute, then it is, in fact, excluded from the report. And our exclusion list is fairly long because if you think about it, I can't see any wall cavities. I can't see any place that my body or my eyeballs can't get. So there are a lot of things that are excluded in that sense. Now, that's where training comes in. The most important part of an experienced inspector isn't just simply being through so many houses that there's an intuitive sense. It's like anyone else in a job. If you do it long enough, your intuition increases. So if you've got an inspector with a lot of experience and a lot of inspections under their belt, they don't have to see everything to know it's there.
Something's going on.
Something's going on.
Right.
And then we can use the technology to determine, was that intuition correct or not?
Well, let's hear about the technology.
So infrared inspections is the biggest thing that's changed in the years that I've been in the inspection. So an infrared camera is extremely sensitive, and the best way to explain it is temperature differential, although it's not really using that. It's very scientific. It's using the mass of a component to determine whether or not there's a defect. But that shows up in the camera as a temperature reading. And they're so sensitive that if I touch my finger to sheetrock for a thousandth of a second, literally just as quick as I can touch it, the camera will pick up that temperature differential. So what it shows us is what's going on inside the wall cavities. And even that's not scientifically put, but it's the best way to put it for laymen because we still can't see in the wall. So we need to be aware we really can't see in the wall.
Right.
But at the same time, it does give us an indication if we have any anomalies within a building component that we can't see into. And then it'll prompt us to say there has to be destructive testing or something else done to determine the extent of the defect. So we can locate the defect with the thermal imaging. From there, it needs to be taken to destructive testing.
So what type of defect would that typically be?
It can be anything from most commonly water migration issues, a lot of plumbing leaks. And a lot of times we find plumbing leaks that have been in place for a long time. You can have a plumbing leak under a bathtub, let's say. It's a good example, in a ceiling. And you look up at the ceiling, it looks perfectly fine. Maybe a 20-year-old house, we do an infrared scan after running and draining the tub, and we find water. When they pull out that sheetrock, they find substantial mold and decay, and it looks perfectly fine on the outside. That's a prime example of what it's used for, and that's the most common probably. But it'll also show electrical defects, and electrical is the one that's the biggest safety hazard in the house. You're not likely to drown in your house from the plumbing components, but you can certainly kill yourself with the electrical. So it's really important that we see any shorts that are occurring, or any of the issues related to the wiring inside the walls that's been pinched or somehow created a short within the wiring shows up with the thermal camera.
So Wade, also I've heard a lot of the sewer scoping going on. Do you guys do sewer scopes?
We do sewer scopes. Yes.
So what is that, and who needs a sewer scope? Everybody, or what?
Well, we would say in most cases houses over 40 years or houses that have a lot of trees. Because the trees do break into the plumbing. Modern plumbing components, the plastic that they use now is less susceptible to the damage than the old clay tile that they used because it doesn't have the separations. So the newer the house, the less likely to have the damage, unless, again, you've got a lot of tree roots because they can damage anything. The sewer scope used to be an area that we had to completely exclude because no one was doing sewer scopes as a pre-purchase inspection. Now they're becoming extremely common, and we do see a lot of big defects. The biggest thing with the sewer line, and again, we're talking about the line from inside the house underground to the street and to connect it to the main. It's an area that is completely hidden from view. There's just no way to have any idea, and it's an extremely expensive component to repair. So it's one of those things that, again, we'd always had to exclude simply because we couldn't get to it.
See it.
And then, we'd hear about people having $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or more in repairs after moving in. Now, we do a lot of functional testing in the house, and if it's in severe condition when we get there, they may have a toilet that doesn't flush. But a lot of times you can have substantial damage that's about to create a major issue that no one would be aware of without a sewer scope.
Right. So, Wade, as we wrap up here, tell us how our listeners can reach you.
Google me, for one thing, Wade Pennington. I'm everywhere on Google. fortunately.
Wow.
Inspection Services Northwest is the company name, and inspectionservicesnorthwest.com or wadepennington.com will get you to the website.
And there's somebody there pretty much any time can answer and route you through to you or to one of your technicians. Yeah?
That is correct, yeah. The phone number is 206-241-8087.
All right, so you can Google Wade. You can look for Inspection Services Northwest. You can call Brian, right?
You bet.
You can call our team. We'd be happy to connect you with Wade. So that concludes our interview with Wade Pennington of Inspection Services Northwest. Coming up next is a little more, we're getting a little in the weeds, which is actually great. And guess what? He's a golfer too. Oh my gosh, it's a full golf deal. So next up is Michael Abrahamson. He's with Rainier Title and Escrow. So come on back right after this break.
Not sure if now is the right time to sell? Worried you missed the market? The Eastside Real Estate Team specializes in helping homeowners maximize their equity when selling. With our proven premier listing service, our clients have sold their homes for more money in less time than the competition. We know you have many choices when working with a real estate agent, but with the Eastside Real Estate Team, you get a team of highly qualified, experienced agents. From staging to deciding if your property is market ready for top dollar. If you're considering selling, call the Eastside Real Estate Team at 425-200-4093. Or check out our website at the eastsiderealestateteam.com, a subsidiary of Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue.
Do you have family home movies you can no longer enjoy because, well, you either tossed your VCR or your camcorder is broken? Lotus Media is here to help you relive the wedding memories, birthdays, trips, and holiday celebrations. We are a local business that specializes in future-proofing everything from VHS and high-8 videotapes to photos and slides and even 8mm film. Our process creates universal digital files from your precious memories, ensuring they can be enjoyed for generations to come. The videos can be viewed anywhere on your PC, web browser, or even your phone, and they are a snap to edit too. We have over 20,000 happy customers, including Starbucks. Our digitization prices are lower than Costco's, and most orders are processed in just 10 days. We digitize all tape formats from all regions and can help repair your tape if it is broken, or extract it from a camcorder if it is stuck. Visit us online to find out more at lotusmedia.us. Email us for more information at support@lotusmedia.us, or give us a call at 855-LTS-MEDIA. That's 855-587-6334. One last time, 855-587-6334.
Alternative Talk 1150, the talk of the sound.
Back with Real Talk with Brian and Dan, Eastside Real Estate Team, Keller Williams Bellevue, and Dan is going to introduce Michael Abrahamson.
All right, so Michael Abrahamson here with Rainier Title works as an account manager. He's been in the real estate industry since 2001 and is currently calling on real estate offices here on the East Side. He's also a continuing education clock hours instructor and licensed notary. He loves to do what he loves most about his job is the relationships that he builds with real estate agents and loan officers and the classes that he gets to teach. Please welcome to the show, Michael Abrahamson. Michael, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
You're a pro now. I think you've been on a few radio stations, right?
I've been on a couple times, but I still get nervous. Bear with me.
All right, we'll do our best. So before we get into the business side of things, I already let the cat out of the bag. You're also a golfer. What else do you do?
I am a golfer. So when I'm not golfing, so I'm married. I have a 23-year-old daughter as well. So my wife and I try to spend as much time as we can with her when she's not working. So I like to do the family thing when I'm not playing golf.
Awesome. Let's see. Oh, okay.
So, well, just a little side note. I tried golf once. On the third hole, they told me I'm supposed to set the bag down when I hit the ball. So that was the end of the line for me.
That's funny.
So
they waited till the third hole.
So anything besides golf when you're not doing the family or family thing? What do you like to do?
Well, not really. I mean, all my family lives here, so if I'm not with my wife and daughter, we're usually doing some with my sister, my parents, or we keep it in the family, or friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So same question we've asked all of our guests. If you go back to your childhood, you think about the home that you grew up in, what's a fond memory that you'd like to share with the audience here?
Well, I have a couple of them, actually. One, because I've been thinking about this. One of them is I always remember when I was little that we would always eat dinner as a family, which is something I do now with my family. Thank gosh for that, because I love that. The other thing is more of the neighborhood. I remember just playing with every single kid in the neighborhood. It was either kick the can, or we're playing soccer in the backyard, or we're over at someone's home, all in the pool together. So just the community and the neighborhood, what closeness that brought.
What neighborhood did you grow up in?
That was in Ballard.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah.
So let's get down to it. What is title insurance?
What is title insurance? So title insurance is so much fun to talk about. But it is an insurance policy that people have on real property. So there's three kinds of insurances people usually purchase when they get a home. So there's going to be an owner's policy for title. There's going to be a lender's policy. And then there's a homeowner's insurance policy that people buy. That has nothing to do with title. And people often get confused about the homeowner's policy, the insurance policy. So to cover that really quick, homeowner's insurance policy is something that you buy for everything in the future. So if your home burns down, or you get robbed, or something like that happens in the future, you're going to be covered by insurance. That's something you get like through Allstate or Progressive, whatever they're buying, and you pay for that monthly. Title insurance is something you pay once when you purchase the home, and it covers everything that's happened to your home in the past. I mean, that's the easiest way I can explain it. So no one can come knocking on your door after you've moved in 3 months and say, hey, we fixed that roof 3 years ago and the old sellers never paid me, so now you owe me $25,000. Title insurance covers that.
Gotcha. So one-time premium up front, and then you're done. Is that right? Yep.
Yes. So there's, and one of the things is people don't understand who pays for it. So the two policies, the owner's policy is actually going to be purchased by the sellers for the new buyer, just to put a clean title on their new property. And what the buyers are going to purchase, they're going to purchase a lender's policy, which is going to be the amount of the loan that they lend. Obviously, if they pay all cash, there is no lender's policy.
Okay. Now, does every house have to have title insurance?
It doesn't have to have it, but yes, it protects you to have it. So
you could actually purchase a home and not purchase title insurance. But
yes, you can.
Why would you?
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, if you have a loan, you have to, because a lender requires it.
I see.
Yeah, you can do it. I mean, the same with inspections. People were waiving titles.
One instance that I had, I've been doing 13 years. Brian's been doing, so he may have a few more instances that have come up during title. But I had one where a couple bought a home out of foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, bank-owned home, and they bought the simple version of the title. They didn't buy the standard version. And as they were getting ready to flip this home and go back on the market, boom, out came a lawsuit claiming ownership of that home. And they couldn't do anything for selling that home until the title company came out. Now, the title company did a great job. They got out there right away. The guy that showed up had a big, thick stack of papers with little sticky notes in, and he said he read it on the plane. I said, you are definitely a title lawyer. Okay. But that's the one time that I've had an issue come up. But I'm sure that, every probably week there's some kind of thing that goes on that we just don't hear about, right?
Right. I mean, it actually happens all the time where I've seen people and heard stories where anyone can go down and slap a lien on your home. They can just go down to county and say, hey, this person owes me $10,000, put a lien on their property. Anyone can do that. However, it's not until you go to court until they have to prove that you owe them that $10,000. So we see that kind of stuff come up all the time in title. Just not that, but judgments, liens, encumbrances, encroachments. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can pop up on your title that people just aren't aware of, and they're not educated about it.
So getting a little technical on you here, does your company offer a homeowner's endorsement? And if so, what's the difference between a standard and a homeowner's endorsement?
Well, the standard is going to cover, like, you mean the extended policy?
No, I see what I call a homeowner's endorsement that just covers a few more things, a little bit more money, but not as much as an extended policy.
Well, okay, so we have an owner's policy and then we have an extended policy. So it sounds like you're talking about our extended policy.
Okay, well, tell us about that.
And that's usually put on properties that are tough to see where the boundary lines are. So it might be waterfront property or big farmland. And what that requires is a survey. So we'll send a surveyor out there. So it's a little extra money to pay for that surveyor.
I see builders doing that extended policy when they need to do a subplat or something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So everybody always introduce you as Michael Abrahamson with Rainier Title and Escrow. So then what's the escrow? We've talked about the title. What's the escrow?
Okay. So escrow is actually a place where the buyers and sellers send all of their paperwork to and all their monies, and the escrow is going to take care of that and put it all together. And then put your money away in an escrow account, and when it closes, they're going to disperse it however the buyers and sellers want. So that's what an escrow company does. We have an LPO. So I know your next question is, what's an LPO?
No, could you just answer it for us? Jeez, do some of our work here.
Well, an LPO is a limited practitioner officer where they are actually state licensed to put together this paperwork for buyers and sellers. And they bring everyone together and do exactly what the purchase and sale says. So we'll get calls a lot. So that's my team. So my team goes in there and they get calls from people saying, hey, I really don't want to spend this much money on the inspections. Can you change it? And some of the buyers or sellers aren't aware that they have to come together as one and come into agreements. So an LPO is a third-party entity that works for the buyers and the sellers and also works with the lender to bring everything together for you so everybody complies to what they say they're going to do and close everything and make sure everyone's happy at the end. So that's what an LPO does.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Well, yeah, so that in a very short nutshell, we could probably get more in the weeds, but in a short nutshell is what title and escrow. And Michael, I really appreciate you coming in and doing that for us. Before we go, though, it looks like we have about another 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
Do you have a quick story about escrow solving a great problem?
Escrow solving a great problem. Well, usually escrow is the one who gets yelled at by everybody. So I do respect the heck out of the LPO closers, but just them calming people down when they need to calm them down, because like I said, when people call escrow, they're usually upset about something because something's not being done, even though it's not escrow's fault. They're the ones getting yelled at it. So them to bring people together to calm them down and be in a place where they can take that screaming and still come from a place of respect and getting you to calm down. I mean, that stuff happens every day to them. So I hold my highest regard to them just for what they do and how they do it.
So how do our listeners get a hold of you?
www.rainiertitle.com. You can get a hold of any of the account managers on there, or you can call me direct at 425-518-3044.
All right. Great. Well, after the break, we're going to talk listings launched and some events coming up this weekend. So come right back after the break.
Did you know when you pay rent, you're actually paying someone else's mortgage? Are you tired of missing out on owning your own home? Fact. Homeowners on average have 40 times the financial net worth of renters. The Eastside Real Estate Team has been helping many first-time home buyers find and buy their first home. They specialize in customer service and put you first. They listen first to what you're looking for, and then they take the time to make sure their clients understand every aspect of the home buying process. If owning a home has been your dream, the Eastside Real Estate Team can help you. For a free, no-hassle consultation, call 425-200-4093 or find them online at the eastsiderealestateteam.com, a subsidiary of Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue.
Seattle, Tacoma, Antwerp? That's right. We're streamed worldwide on our app and on the web at 1150kknw.com.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Brian and Dan, the Eastside Real Estate Team, Keller Williams Realty Bellevue. And I'd like to...
Did you hear that? We're international, Brian.
Oh, we are.
Sweet.
I've heard that rumor. So one of the things we want to do is share some information about our new listings, a little listing launch segment. And I've got something I'm excited to share. The house that I think is probably, I've been doing this for over 36 years, my all-time favorite home. I know that sounds kind of crazy of all the years I've been doing this.
Yeah, right.
But this is the gem of Sammamish. This home was originally built in the mid-30s, been totally remodeled and updated. It's on 8.65 acres overlooking Lake Sammamish. Absolutely stunning property. It's just, you got to see it to believe it. And if you'd like to see it, we're going to be open on Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 4, 4060 212th Avenue, 212th Way, Southeast Sammamish. Come on by. You will not regret the time to walk through this beautiful, beautiful home.
Yeah, that house is fantastic. I drive by it almost every day, and it's up on a ridge. It's got a great view from it. And I know the current owner just put a ton of updates.
Yep.
So Saturday, Sunday, 1 to 4. If you go to East Lake Sammamish from Issaquah and you head north, and then you turn right on 212th, you can't miss it.
Halfway
Brian
up the
Signs will
hill.
be out there. It should be pretty fantastic. And also this weekend, we're going to have our Carnation property open, and this is an actual agriculturally zoned property. So you can, I think the best use for it would be like a farm-to-table type property where you could do bed and breakfast and actually have the breakfast. One of my pet peeves on Airbnb is oftentimes you go to these Airbnbs and there's no second B. I mean, what the heck is with that, right? Anyways,
Right.
I think you can do farm-to-table. You can, there's a 4-stall horse corral. It's $1 million. It's out on West Snoqualmie River Road, north off of 202. So that should be open this weekend as well. And what we wanted to do, too, is kind of just talk about some events. I went and pulled an event, and I think this will be pretty fun for all the dog lovers out there. As you know, our first episode, we talked about the dogs that each of us had, and it turned out there was a majority of Border Collie lab mixes. So Taco and Nacho may be making an appearance at this week on Sunday. Taco and Nacho are my dogs, by the way. Sunday at the Walk and Wag. The Walk and Wag 2019. This is a third annual Walk and Wag at the Lake Sammamish State Park from 11 to 3. You can go to Eventbrite and Google Walk and Wag. It looks like they're doing some kind of fundraiser there, but check this out. So there's going to be pet-friendly vendors. There's also going to be obedience training courses. Police dog will be out there. And let's see, there is a fee. All dogs have to be on the leash, but there's a contest.
Pet-friendly beer garden?
Yeah, pet-friendly beer garden. So, the dogs could have beer. It's cool.
There you go.
Or the other way around. So that's really it for our show. So I don't know. What'd you think, Brian? How'd it go?
Good. I'm so delighted to have Wade and Michael here. We'd like to bring Wade back another time for a segment on flipping. I know a lot of people are interested in flipping houses.
Yeah.
Wade's a pro, and really like to have him share some of his expertise. So we'll look forward to having you back sometime, Wade.
Yeah, we got to geeking out so much about the inspection stuff that we didn't get to the segment on that. But yeah, I think that would be fantastic to have you back and share some of your wisdom, because a lot of people are concerned on how to get started, right? And coming from an inspector's standpoint, I'm sure there's some pretty good insight there.
Absolutely. Happy to come back.
Yep.
Awesome. So it looks like that's it. So how to get a hold of the Eastside Real Estate team. You can go to our website, www.theeastsiderealestate.com, or you can give us a call at 425-200-4093. So thanks for joining us today on Real Talk. I'm Dan.
I'm Brian.
And we're out of here.
Not sure if now is the right time to sell? Worried you missed the market? The Eastside Real Estate team specializes in helping homeowners maximize their equity when selling. With our proven premier listing service, our clients have sold their homes for more money in less time than the competition. We know you have many choices when working with a real estate agent, but with the Eastside Real Estate team, you get a team of highly qualified, experienced agents. From staging to deciding if your property is market ready for top dollar. If you're considering selling, call the Eastside Real Estate team at 425-200-4093. Or check out our website at the eastsiderealestateteam.com, a subsidiary of Keller Williams Realty in Bellevue.